Saints running back Alvin Kamara on trade speculation, Kendra Miller and Dennis Allen's defensive scheme. Ladies and gentlemen, New Orleans.football is providing the interview. Okay, this is a locker room situation with Alvin, so this has all been making the rounds recently because of the trade speculation and Alvin saying he would drink piña colada somewhere. Respect if he was traded. And so we are going to get into that and talk about it today. So real quick, I don't think the Saints are going to trade Kamara. I think with a player like Alvin, if he says, yeah, I don't want to be traded, then, I think it's like, all right, well, we're not going to trade you. I'm not saying that he's got, he can say basically a trade clause, but I think he is one. Cam Jordan's kind of similar, where if he said, look, I want to be traded, I want to play for a winner, I want to do whatever, I think he'd probably say, all right, well, I mean, if that's what he wants, and we're in a situation where we're probably trying to trade players or whatever, then we can appease and see if we can get something for him. On the other side, if the trade value really isn't that extravagant, and for Alvin it wouldn't be. I mean, he's a running back who's already splitting time in New Orleans, and I don't think would be, like if Kansas City traded for him, I think he would still split time in Kansas City. I think he would still kind of be, he would mix in with Pacheco and whoever else. I don't think he would just all of a sudden be the lead back for a contender and be getting a ton of the volume and a ton of the work, right? So the trade value wouldn't be something extravagant. So one of those things where if you don't have to, if you're not going, if you don't have to move him, if there's not crazy trade value on the other side of it, he's still providing something for your team, which Alvin is, in multiple ways on the field, but also he's a locker room leader, the fan base, all that stuff, then you don't move him. And you just kind of agree to agree.
I wanted to start just with the fact that you're going to see DA again.
Oh, real quick. Big news. SpeakPipe, freaking SpeakPipe is back. So you can now leave me voice messages. Leave voice messages for me. You can use SpeakPipe on your computer. You can use it on your phone. Same thing as just calling into the show. Same thing as calling in. You go to the link that's in the description. It'll pop up. You just, boom, bust the phone out, record something. It sends me a voicemail, and then I'm going to listen to them, react to them in real time on the channel. We did it last year. It's only taken me 6 weeks, but we got it going this year. New package or whatever, so we got more calls, more storage space, all that fun stuff. So leave me a voicemail. All right, it's going to be open. We're going to be doing it all the time. It was awesome last year. It's going to be awesome this year, especially on game day. Game day is going to be really cool to hear those, like whether it's good or bad. But yeah, so the SpeakPipe is back up. Get in there like swimwear.
On Sunday. Probably yeah. But what did he, I guess, in his time here?
Or real quick, so he asked about Dennis Allen, and Alvin said, "Am I going to see him?" This is a mistake that people make all the time. A lot of the times, fans and journalists or commentators or whatever, they look at it like a TV show. Like they look at sports like a show, and they create all these narratives and they create all these storylines and they create all this stuff. Like the idea that Alvin and Dennis Allen are somehow like going to be interacting, or it's going to be a homecoming of sorts. They more than likely won't see each other. Like, yeah, he'll be on the other side of the field. Like, yeah, sort of, kind of. Like, but Alvin's just going to work. Dennis Allen's just going to work. Dennis Allen got fired. He works for the Bears now. Like, it just kind of is what it is. The Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler thing. It's not like Vegeta versus Goku at the World Tournament. It's like, okay, yeah, that happened in Oklahoma. I went this direction. He went this direction. We're now in the NFL. Like, the last thing we're thinking about is, the last thing Spencer Rattler should be thinking about is when he was benched at Oklahoma for Caleb Williams. Like, a lot of the times, too, a good way to kind of put yourself, like, have some perspective is just, even though it's, the NFL, strip it down to a job that either you've had or you know of or whatever, and put yourself in the position. Like, I've had bosses that I did not like and didn't respect, and, we didn't end things amicably. And if I saw them now, I'd just kind of keep it moving. I wouldn't be set out in revenge, or I wouldn't be motivated or whatever. It would just be like, yeah, that was the thing that happened. It was what it was. Keep it moving. right? I've been fired before. Like if I saw the boss who fired me, I could care less. I just keep it moving. So a lot of that sometimes does get overblown.
You kind of remember just like what his impact was for this franchise.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he won a Super Bowl here. Yeah, I mean, he's hell of a defensive coordinator. Did a lot for the organization, and time ended. He's in Chicago now, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, there it is. Like, yeah, I mean, it happened. Whatever. Who cares? I don't think Alvin's losing sleep over Dennis Allen and vice versa. I don't think if Steve Spagnuolo, when he went back to when the Chiefs played the Giants, I don't think the conversation was like, what does Steve Spagnuolo mean to New York? I don't know, man. What are we talking about?
What have you seen from what this Bears defense has done? I know it's still early for him. I mean, it seems like they're maybe starting to figure things out, especially if you look at that Monday night game and what they were able to do against Washington.
Yeah. I mean, I've been seeing that defense for my whole career, honestly. So just seeing a lot of things that he was doing here that, those guys are starting to kind of buy into and believe, and they're starting to execute it. So, they're having some production over there, so we just got to be sound in what we're doing. Luckily, like me, Eric, Caesar, we've seen it. So I think it helps a little bit that we've seen it. But again, we still got to play the game, and we got to execute on our end.
Yeah, and another thing that is overblown is the idea of like familiarity, right? Like I've heard a lot this week of, Dennis Allen will know how to stop the Saints offense. So, couldn't you say the same thing about the Saints offense, knowing Dennis Allen's defense better than anyone after seeing it in practice? Like they saw it forever. So wouldn't they have the exact same amount of familiarity?
Alvin, have you seen like a mentality shift for Kendra now? He's just been able to stay healthy, stay on the field, and just get out there and play.
Yeah, I mean, it's just confidence, and confidence that comes with reps. It comes with success, and he's having some success, and I think it starts to get fun when you can have success consistently and get to kind of just play some more, open up your game. So he's doing well.
Usually going up against Dennis Allen's defense in the game situation.
I did it for 8 years in camp, the OTAs, all that. So it'll be a little bit different. Obviously going against them in a real game situation. But like I said, a lot of experience with it, seen it. So just gotta go out and execute.
When you guys are looking at what you do offensively this year, it's just there's a lot of good. It just seems like whether it's red zone, third down, it's just like it's not all kind of clicking. How do you view that as a whole?
Just view it as an offense that still has to find its identity all the way. I don't think we have it all the way yet. Like you said, there's some things that we've been doing good, and then there's things where it's like, man, we got to figure it out to get to where we want to be at. So, at times it's frustrating because, I think we got talent. I think we got a lot of guys that want to do the right things, and sometimes the execution isn't there. And then I don't know. You got to talk to Kellen about how he feels about it, but I think we got more. So it's part of just growing and trying to evolve and gel and mesh together as often.
Yeah, I mean, true. And we've preached that for 6 weeks. And, a lot of something that I think is interesting is people are still comparing like this year to last year. I still hear, because I read every comment. And I read hundreds of comments a day. And I still see a lot of like, same stuff from last year to this year. And for a fan, I understand because you're watching the same team every year. It seems like a continuation, but this is we've only seen 6 games of Kellen Moore and this offense and all that. There is still a growing period and an evolution period, and figuring things out with not only the players and the coach, and the players with the system, and the coach with the roster, but also we've seen the kind of roster evolution within younger players and older players, and the mesh of like, okay, who should be where and who should be playing where and how much should they be playing. I mean, Kendra Miller had whatever it was 3 carries in like week 1 or week 2, and now he's getting half the carries. Like Torricelli Simpkins was right guard. Now Cesar Ruiz is back. Quincy Riley was not playing at all, and now he's the guy, right? Jonas Senker wasn't playing at all, and now he's the guy. There's just an evolution, and part of that evolution is figuring out, okay, we can move the football. We have a foundational understanding of the offense. We are successful enough at moving the ball. Now we have to score. Now we have to figure out what changes in the red zone. Now we have to figure out what do we do when we get within the 20 or the 25 or the 10 or these different situational spots. And with a young, rebuilding team, that evolution and that ability to pivot and adjust and all that stuff, that is part of it. That is part of the plan, part of the deal. You're not going to hit the ground running immediately, especially when you're also rebuilding. I mean, this is a lot, as far as, and this is stuff we talked about all offseason. I mean, you have the youngest head coach in the NFL. You have a 36-year-old head coach for the first time installing a brand new offense to a team, half of which have been in, who are older in their career. The other group is younger, and there's a lot happening. And all you can ask for at this point is to see the evolution and to see the adjustments being made and to see progress and to see development. That's what you have to ask for at this point. Week 1 to week now, totally different as far as being able to move the football. What we have not seen yet and what we have to see now are touchdowns and points. And hopefully we see it against Chicago.
One of those things that you think could just click into place, I don't know if it's
I believe it just happenstance. I think it's a conscious effort. So all of us have to be, conscious enough and have the awareness within ourselves to basically understand that these plays don't just happen on their own. We gotta be the ones putting forth the effort to get them executed and bring them to life. That's when you have the production. That's when you turn on the film and you're like, okay, we're rolling. So that's what we're trying to get to.
In that same vein, is it important not to lose confidence and almost be like, hey, it's virtually.
Yeah. You can't lose confidence. You gotta stick to the script. You gotta come in every week and roll your sleeves up and go to work and keep the process, the focus on everything. And this game, you have bad days, you have good days, and you got to take the good with the bad. You got to be, real enough with yourself to be honest about, the bad days and understand that, you can celebrate the good days, but, just as quick as you have a good day, you can have a bad day. So it's all about just keeping the process the same, understanding that you have to work for, what you get in this league. None is given to you. So,
true.
Alluding back to what you say, it's not just gonna click. We gotta be, we gotta be the ones that make it. We gotta click it into play.
How much of a good sign is it though that you guys are starting to give the explosive plays? You have a big touchdown against the Giants, and then the second play of the game on Sunday, that big fat play.
That's 2 plays. That's just 2. We need more. But like I said, we got players. We got players that can make the plays. We just gotta find those type of plays on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, again, well said. I mean, there's some insane background noise in this locker room. But I always appreciate Alvin's interviews because he views the game so uniquely. He views this thing as a job, a business, a sport. He views it for what it is. And I think that's so refreshing. And I love how when he talks about things kind of just like they are what they are, this is how, never too high, never too low. He approaches it as a game, as a sport, as a game of football. He doesn't approach it as anything it's not. And there's no cliches. There's none of that. It's just a systematic kind of process. And that's kind of how I see it. That's how I see the game. And so it's always interesting to hear him vocalize that.
Alvin, as a trade deadline approaches, a lot of people like to link your name to whatever team needs a running back.
Yeah.
I know you don't go searching for it, but when people tell you about those reports or speculation, what's your reaction?
I don't watch too much football, so I don't know who need a running back, who don't need a running back. But I mean, it's been like that for years.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is. I'm just focused on what I'm doing. I don't really think about it too much. I don't even know what day is the deadline.
Number 4.
Oh yeah. Well, now y'all just taught me something. I don't know.
So, this is something that's been known, but Alvin doesn't watch football. He does not watch the league. Very interesting. Like I've heard basketball players say that. I think Kawhi Leonard said it last year or the year before in an interview where he was like, "Yeah, I do not watch other teams. I do not go home and watch games. I don't turn on and see the Lakers playing the Timberwolves. I just play on my team, and then that's it. And I have no idea what else is happening." And I think some people hear that and they're very surprised. But again, same as some other jobs where you do your job, you go home, and that's it. You don't. If you're in banking, some people are obsessed with banking. Some people read banking books and they want to take courses and they want to go to conferences and they want to do whatever. They listen to banking podcasts. There's other people in the banking profession who go to work, go home, and the last thing they're doing is looking at banking stuff. The last thing they care about is banking or what's going on in the space or what's going on in the industry. They're just doing their job, catching their check, and trying to be the best they can be. But that's about it, right? And the same thing it happens in sports. And it's always good to remember that whatever league it is, whatever sport it is just a job, is just a game, is just whatever for the players. And some players approach it very differently than others, for sure. So, but as far as the trade thing, I don't think the Saints should trade Alvin because, like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't think you're going to get a tremendous haul. And I think he's giving enough value to this team. One, the fact that he is our lead back and he is getting 55% of the work or whatever it is. He's still productive. I think it's also good that he's just in the locker room. You cannot, and this is something that I tweeted out, but I'm seeing way too much addition by subtraction in the Saints community where it's like, all right, trade Alvin, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Cam Jordan, DeMario Davis, and Pete Werner. It's like, all right, guys, we have to field a team. We have to still develop and insulate and field the team and do whatever. Like, we cannot tear everything down to the studs, trade everything away for 40 draft picks, click sim to end of season, and then just see what happens. Like, we still, like Kendra Miller, if we trade Alvin, for example, think about what that does with Kendra Miller and Devin Neal. If you trade Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, what does that do for Spencer Rattler? What does that do for this offense? If you trade Cam Jordan, DeMario Davis, Pete Werner, and Kool-Aid and Alontae Taylor, what's it do to the defense? What's it do to the young players? Who has to play? Whose development is shifting? What's going on? There's a lot of factors. It is not just collect draft picks, sim to end of season, look at player progression, and then sim to next season. It's not that easy. In some cases, in some cases, business is business. You got to make trades. You got to move player pieces around. It is what it is. But I'm hearing way too much, like the Chris Olave thing. In the same breath, I'm hearing trade Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, and then we just got to find our number one, number two receivers. Okay, where? Like, what does that mean? All of a sudden, now you're going to draft two receivers that you just knock out of the park, and there's just no doubt about it, a guaranteed 1 and 2? Or does it make more sense to stack the wide receiver room, keep Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed? Rashid's a little different because of the contract, you got to pay him, but keep Chris Olave, draft a receiver, and now all of a sudden, let's say you have, I'm just going to make up a player, Cardell Tate and Chris Olave. Like, that sounds, okay, that could solve your problem. It could solve your problem to have Cardell Tate as your number one receiver, Chris Olave as your number two, whatever, whoever, Devon Vele is your 3, or however it plays out. That sounds okay. So sometimes staying put and building on what you currently have is the move versus consistently tearing everything down just because you think, well, maybe this player's not as good as we thought he was. If Chris Olave isn't a 1, maybe he can be our 2, right? Like Devontae Smith is not a 1, but that doesn't mean Philadelphia needs to trade him. He's fine as their 2. Is Devontae Smith the game-wrecking Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, guaranteed number 1 wide receiver, superstar, whatever? No. But he's a really good number 2. 100%. No doubt about it. No need to move them. No need to trade them. Just leave it as is. And it works. That's how a lot of good teams especially, you just stack talent. You stack talent, move players around, move pieces around, get in where you fit in. The more talented players you have, the better. So there's a lot of Madden theory being tossed around right now when it comes to the Saints roster.
It is what it is.
There was, I mean, you've been pretty consistent telling us, like, this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
There was a report last week that Mickey talked to you about that.
Yeah, I don't know where that. We talked about it, and we was like, we was looking at each other like little Spider-Man meme. Like, did you say something? Did I say something? Because I don't know where that came from. But I think I've been vocal enough that that I don't know where that came from. But I don't want to go anywhere, and I've said it countless times. Y'all know that. I think everybody knows that. The fan base knows that. And at the end of the day, it's business, So, I don't go upstairs, and I don't have an office upstairs.
Yeah.
I got an office in Charlotte at NASCAR, but I don't got an office upstairs, so I don't really sit in those meetings, and I don't really know what happens up there. I just gotta, keep my head down and, I don't know. If I was a GM, I guess I would go to the player and be like, "Hey, we're trading you, just so you know." So if Mickey come downstairs and say that, then I'm gonna drink a pina colada.
Is there like a conversation that happens in the locker room though? Like obviously 1-5, you get to
The player that makes the most sense to me that could get traded is DeMario Davis, because I think, and I just for some reason, in the back of my head, I just have this feeling that San Francisco is going to make a move for him. San Francisco loses Fred Warner. They need a green dot. DeMario Davis is the man. He's still playing at a super high level. He absolutely could slot in and start for a ton of defenses. We just saw Danny Stutzman and Stahlberg get some play last game. And when that happened, it was kind of like, are they preparing for something? Are they slowly easing them in because they know this could be a possibility? So that's the one that I think makes sense for like every party. It makes sense because it's a need, a big time need for San Francisco, who is a Super Bowl, aspirations. And it makes sense too for the Saints. Aging player, could probably get pretty high value from a desperate team. And you have your young replacements. That's the one that makes sense to me.
Deadline, or is that just something you can't think about?
Nah, we don't really think about it. I think, maybe me and Cam had conversations about it, but it's more. It's not like, damn, you think you're getting traded, or damn, you think you're getting traded. It's more like, it's one of those things where it happens. Like, damn, trade deadline coming up, and historically here. We haven't really been transaction heavy like before the deadline a lot, so it never really been something on my mind. It's like we just playing football. It's like November, they talk about the trade deadline, and then that passes, and then you look up and it's December. It's like, all right, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, if I get traded, man, y'all not gonna be able to talk to me no more, man.
The another trade, obviously, and I don't know if it's Chris Olave, but like I'm hearing a lot about like Jalen Waddle to Buffalo. That makes sense, right? Because Buffalo is so bad playmaker-wise. And especially after what happened in Atlanta, I think Buffalo's looking around like we are about to waste another Josh Allen season because our defense is ass and we have no playmakers. So them going and getting Jalen Waddle or them going and getting Chris Olave or whatever maybe does make sense. I don't know if Olave is the guy they would go and get. Like if I was Buffalo, I would go get Waddle first. Right, but that's a team that I think could probably be involved in a trade, but I don't know if Olave is the target. I feel like DeMario Davis would be the target to replace Fred Warner.
We had Drew Brees on early in the week, and he was asked about it, and he said one thing that he looks at is like, I'll never undersell the value of leadership in the locker room.
Yeah.
Where do you see that? Like, because I think people just throw trades out there, and then they
100%. Exactly what I was saying 2 minutes ago. It's too easy to do the Madden thing where you're like, oh, this player's older. I can get a 5th round pick for him. Sure, whatever. I was going to cut him anyways. But you're not factoring in the leadership, the voice, the development, the young players, what's happening at practice, what's happening in the locker room, what that does to other players and their development. Now they got to play, and now they got to do this, or now you got to replace that player. There are so many things that go into it. The trades are becoming the new first round pick. It's the new thing that's being talked about nonstop, and no one understands. For a long time, it was first round picks and salary cap was the two things that was talked about nonstop, and no one had really a grasp on it at all. Now the trades are the new thing, where you're just seeing trades for trades. I had a comment that was like, would you trade Chris Olave and a third for, it was Chris Olave and a second for whatever team's third and second, which is basically just Chris Olave for a third and a worse second, right? Because if you're swapping seconds, more than likely whoever we're swapping with is going to have a better second than we do. So it's Chris Olave for a third, and you're also lowering your value of the second round pick and stuff like that, where it's like, man, you've worked yourself into a trap. You've worked yourself into like a Sudoku puzzle you can't solve on the trade machine, and you're just doing a trade to do a trade. Like, at that point, is that even worth doing? Shipping out Chris Olave for a third and a worse second, and what team is it and what's their third? Like, all of a sudden, it's like, you don't have to make a trade. You don't have to just ship players to ship players. We're not going to trade 7 players before the deadline. We're not going to trade Pete Werner, Cam Jordan, Alontae Taylor, Alvin Kamara, Kool-Aid. Who else? I'm missing another player. That's Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. We're not going to trade 8 players for 9 draft picks. We're not going to go into the draft with 17 picks.
Yeah,
no, like these are team leaders.
It's like, it's fabric. It's a lot of things that, there's a lot of things that are, what would I call it, priceless, locker room. I think everybody sits at home and they play like GM or owner, and they're like, well, you got to do this. So I don't care if anybody wants anything, if anybody's willing to give anything for any of these players, you trade them, we're rebuilding, blah, 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 blah. And I just sit and laugh, because I'm like, man, like, it's so much more that goes into this whole thing that you just see on Sunday. Like, a lot of people just look at Sunday, and there's so much more that goes into it. So, like, you say, and I'm gonna say a hypothetical, but I'm not gonna give a name. You hypothetically trade one of these guys in here that mean a lot to the city or mean a lot to this team over the years, and then you kind of like now you got to fill a hole, and say you get picks. You got to wait a year. You got to wait
a year, and then you got to make sure you hit those picks. And we have seen previously, not just us, but other teams, where you whiff on a pick. So what if you're trading these guys to get picks that you whiff on, and then it's just such a mess. It really is. Like, it's such a mess. It's such a more complicated and convoluted situation than people give it credit for. And me and Alvin are lockstep in this. Like, we agree 100%, and I agree with what he's saying. He is echoing what I'm saying. I think there's way too much of this, like, cut or trade after every game, and it blows my mind when I hear it. Like I said in this video, if you don't think Chris Olave is a 1, he is still a good player. He is still a valuable player in the league. Why would you want to move off of a valuable player in the league when you don't have to? That doesn't mean you can't add. It doesn't mean you can't draft a wide receiver to pair with Chris Olave, but believing that you are adding by subtracting, I don't get it.
Draft comes around to pick something, then you pick somebody, and you gotta hope that guy's, if you're picking to replace that person, or you're just picking, if you gotta pick to get somebody else, you gotta hope that pick turns out to be something, because everybody always said, when all this stuff happens, everybody always says like, oh well, we traded this guy and we ended up getting this person, but we should have just kept that person, because this pick didn't end up being shit. So it's like, it's so much that goes into it, and like, that's why I stay away from it. I try not to look too deep into it. But I do know that there's a lot that goes into making the team, building the team, and then the pivotal pieces of the locker room that as an owner, GM, like there's decisions that you got to make, and you got to live with them and be able to sleep with them. So that's not my job. I play football. I'm not on the ownership side yet, or probably won't ever be. But
all right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Boom, good stuff from Alvin. Great perspective, makes a lot of sense, and I'm on a whole different level. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in the next video.